Welcome back to the Jumps Free Agency Special. I'm Rachel Nichols. We've got Amin with us, Paul and Vince are back, and now joining us, our senior writer, Ramona Shelburne. And Ramona, I want to start with Bogdan Bogdanovic. He appeared to be headed to the Bucks via sign and trade earlier this week, only to decide to opt for restricted free agency instead. Now, the NBA's free agency period doesn't start till today, of course, and sources confirmed the league is now investigating whether an agreement happened earlier than permitted. Ramona, you know how I feel about tampering, that it happens all the time, and some of these rules are really ridiculous and frankly insulting to some of the players. What is the latest with the situation with the league, with the teams involved?
Well, Bogdanovic is on his way back to the United States, and he's planning on taking meetings. This may take a couple of days for him to decide where he's going to go, but I don't think he's going to Milwaukee. They lost their opportunity to make that original deal construction happen when they waived Ilyasova. And frankly, with this NBA investigation, I don't think he can take a chance on going back to Milwaukee or going to Milwaukee. And frankly, he had never said he was going to Milwaukee because fundamentally he's not allowed to say that yet. Even if he was only talking to Giannis, you can't have a deal in place 48 hours in advance of free agency in a year when every single agent has told me about a memo that they were all sent this year by the league, sternly warning them about tampering, right? Promises of $10 million fines, and everybody's got to keep this straight this year. This is not the year for anybody to be jumping the gun. And I think there was a variety of reasons why this came undone, but starting with, and most importantly, Bogdanovic never said yes because he couldn't say yes 48 hours in advance. And now he's an unrestricted free agent, or he's a restricted free agent. He can sign an offer sheet, but he's on his way back to the U.S. right now, and he's planning on taking meetings. So I think it's going to take a couple days.
Yeah, Rachel, what I was going to say is these are the moments that really tear me apart, because the media guy in me is like, yes, I want to know about these deals. Break them as soon as we hear about them. Yes, a sign and trade, why not? Even though we know, as Ramona said, fundamentally that's impossible unless you were doing some heavy duty, not just tampering, because Sacramento can give permission, but heavy duty cap circumvention, beating the free agency deadline by 48 hours, right? But the front office guy in me says that's what you get when you're so hot to trot to tell your media sources what's going on. And as a front office guy, I say that's why you keep it close.
Kemba Walker was in Boston the day before he signed with the Celtics last year.
Yes.
That was not like on spec. That was because they had already worked something out.
Rachel, I get it. It happens. But when you put that out there, because we all know how this business works. People in front offices talk to people in the media, talk to people like Ramona, talk to people like Brian, and they'll give them this information because they want to control the message or get ahead of the messaging or whatever it is you want to call it. And agents do this too. So you got to understand, whenever you're engaging in that kind of behavior as a front office, you are risking the validity of this deal. And what the league isn't going to do, it's one thing for Kemba Walker to be in Boston before the free agency period begins. It's another thing to announce a sign and trade 4 days before the free agency. But you know what I mean. When it's leaked, you're not telling them for your health. You're telling them because you want the world to know.
I can't get with this. I can't be here on this. This just always seems so silly to me. Players understand what their value is. They know what their options are. The idea that they won't know unless some other team tells them just doesn't make any sense to me. And Sacramento, obviously being involved in this deal, was involved in the idea of him leaving. So who is being hurt, obviously, by him leaving is theoretically other teams that might want to sign him. But he's not an unrestricted free agent. He's restricted. So Sacramento is going to have a say in this anyway. I don't know, Paul, regardless of the tampering, the not tampering, all of that, he is restricted. Do you think Sacramento should match anyone else who makes him an offer? How valuable do you think he is?
I think it's very valuable for what they're doing. I mean, they're a young and up-and-coming team, possibly could be in the playoffs next year. But on the flip side, this has to be very discouraging for the Milwaukee Bucks, who just saw a team get so much better and take steps back. I mean, Drew Holiday is a really good player, but having this kid on your roster really upgraded them to another level along with Drew. So this is discouraging, but he's a value player in this league, and I expect Sacramento to match any offer that is given to him.
Rachel, I want to point out that this is a different year, and I get your point about tampering, but I have been sent this memo that the league had sent around to all agents and teams this year saying we are cracking down on tampering. They knew it had really gotten out of hand the last couple of years, especially in the way it was being reported, and the guys just flaunting it like Kemba Walker, which you referenced yesterday or earlier. And I think in this situation, Bogdanovic's agents were being very careful not to put him in this situation because restricted free agency is already hard enough. And he deserves a chance to be a restricted free agent, no matter how many players he's talking to right now. He's allowed to talk to players, not allowed for teams to engage in any kind of conversations like that. And now I think what's really important, if you're Milwaukee, and I feel really bad for the Bucks because, you know, for the one team that a small market team trying to keep its superstar, trying to get him to sign this supermax extension. This is so important for them. But if you're going to try to execute a deal of this magnitude, first with Giannis, when they can offer him that, and also the other surrounding moves to convince him to stay, you have got to keep your mouth shut. And that's not talking to the media. That's talking to other teams. There was a Board of Governors call the other day. I think that was talked about on the Board of Governors call. There was a lot of talking. And when you get loud about it, I don't know which team turned them in and asked the league to do an investigation. They have their theories, but pretty much any team that wants Giannis is going to tell the league, hey, crack down on this. And so I feel sorry for Milwaukee, but also you got to keep it tight.
That's all I'm saying.
Because of all of this, I received the reliables from a reliable source saying that the Hawks are targeting some veteran shooting, and Bogdan, Gallinari, Joe Harris, and Rondo are people that they're very interested in. They feel like they can get two of these guys for sure. And so it's interesting that you're saying that Bogey is possibly coming into the States to talk to teams, and the Hawks, from what my source is telling me, feeling that they feel very confident that they can snag two of those guys. So Bogey could be possibly one of the guys the Hawks pick up, and they kind of get lucky after all of this happening in Milwaukee.
Well, the Hawks have the most money, right? So they're being put out as the team that everybody says has interest in their client. Okay, that they get used as leverage. They can only sign one or two of these big names. But I think that they should be in on Bogdanovic. I think there's a lot of other teams that could do sign-in trades. I've heard the Lakers' name has been mentioned as a team that might have interest. It'd be very difficult because they'd have to work out a sign trade. They don't have a lot of salaries that match up. But now this is wide open. And the one place I don't think he's going now is Milwaukee because of this the NBA investigation means you can't take a chance on going to Milwaukee at this point. First, I don't think they can pay you. They're hard capped. But if in 3 weeks that investigation turns up tampering and then your deal is invalidated, now you're really in trouble.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to see all of this. Vince, by the way, thank you for the tip. I almost broke out the siren for you. I think
I started to say it too. That's okay.
I think we can do it, producer Danny, right? Director Kathy, we can do it, right? There we go. It's a key player alert from Vince. There we go. I love it. And by the way, the man just took off an Atlanta Hawks jersey before he put that suit on. So I would listen to him. He knows Bogey really well. Also, I do want to get to the Lakers part of the...
Senator from Los Angeles, along with Neil Everett. I'm Stan Verrett. In just about a month, NBA teams will be back on the court. So even more than in past free agency sessions, this one's a mad scramble. A scramble that is underway as we speak.
Yeah, NBA free agency is like music between my ears, Stan. I mean, it's on the road again.
Yeah.
All right. Go Your Own Way. That's a breakup song. Changes by David Bowie.
Yeah.
And there's a line in there, don't want to be a richer man. Oh, wait. That last part is definitely not play Friday. No. The Kings tapped 23-year-old De'Aaron Fox as their point guard of the future, agreeing to sign him to a max extension for at least $163 million over 5 seasons, his richest contract in franchise history, surpassing Chris Webber. League's reigning 6th man of the year, Montrezl Harrell, agreed to a 2-year deal with the Lakers worth $19 million with a player option in year 2. Harrell ranked second in the NBA in scoring off the bench at just over 18 points per game. And Danilo Gallinari cashed in with the Hawks, agreeing to a 3-year, $61.5 million deal. He should help an Atlanta team that shot just 33% from the three last season. That was the worst in the NBA. Oh, look at old Dwight Howard. I'm staying right where I belong. Laker Nation, I love y'all. Purple and gold never gets old. That's how it started. That's what he said. But what did he mean? He shuffled off to Philadelphia before the day was done.
We got just the man we need to talk to, Adrian Wojnarowski, joining us now on SportsCenter. So, Adrian, let's start at the top with the Lakers. Even as they won a championship last year, there were lots of questions about the depth and what they do outside of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. They got some answers. They added Dennis Schroeder and now Wesley Matthews and Montrezl Harrell. What's going on with L.A.?
Yeah, they certainly had to address that center position once Dwight Howard headed to Philadelphia to play for Doc Rivers and Daryl Morey. And Montrezl Harrell comes from the Clippers, where he was, a very productive player. But they get him at essentially the mid-level exception, that 2 years, $19.5 million with a player option on year 2. And the priority for the Clippers was keeping Marcus Morris, and they're going to do that with a 4-year, $64 million deal, I'm told.
So Anthony Davis, no need to worry in L.A.?
Yeah, Anthony Davis will be back with the Lakers. He's going to take some time to decide, I'm told, at least through Thanksgiving next week, about how he wants to structure his deal with L.A. And, he certainly has several options in terms of the length. One option for him will be to get his contract lengthwise on par with LeBron James. That would be essentially a 3-year deal with a player option after the second year, and then he and LeBron would be contractually aligned. They obviously share the same agent, Rich Paul.
All right, so meanwhile in Boston, Gordon Hayward opted out of his contract with the Celtics, but he may not be leaving. What's going on?
He still has, Hayward does, several options. His agent, Mark Bartelstein, has been talking with several teams on sign and trade scenarios where the Celtics would get back some players from, or perhaps picks from a team, and it would allow Hayward to do a multi-year, $100 million type deal, which is, he would like to get a long-term deal here. New York is offering, a bigger number on shorter years. That is an option for him. The Pacers and the Celtics had gone back and forth and talked. Gordon Hayward is obviously from Indianapolis, played at Butler. That has certainly been a scenario for him. And another scenario that remains there, Stan, is returning to the Celtics. He could re-sign with Boston. And if Boston wanted to trade him in the future, if he wanted to move on, it's a lot easier to do that down the road with Gordon Hayward if he's under contract.
The Hawks add some shooting with Danilo Gallinari, 3 years, $61.5 million. What are they thinking when it comes to roster building?
Well, they have a very talented young core Travis Schlenk has built in Atlanta, led by Trae Young, certainly. But they're a team that wanted to start to compete to get into playoffs. And you don't do that with young players. You do it with accomplished veterans like Gallinari. 3 years, $61.5 million for Gallo. The most ever for a player over 30 who's never played in an All-Star game. That's an interesting fact on that deal. But he is a guy who can score the ball all over the floor. And I don't think the Hawks are done. They have more cap space. There's some more veteran players out there that they would like to add. They want a team that's going to compete a little closer to that 8th seed in the Eastern Conference.
The Nets thinking even bigger than that in the Eastern Conference. They keep Joe Harris. General Manager Sean Marks said that was their biggest priority in free agency, and they got it done. Very interesting situation in Brooklyn. What's going on there?
4 years, $75 million for Joe Harris. Listen, his career has blossomed with the Nets, and he was essentially out of the league when they brought him in there, and he's turned it into, a massive contract. Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. When you have players like that who command the kind of defensive attention those two do, when you have a shooter like Joe Harris out there, it was the kind of player that Sean Marks and new coach Steve Nash did not want to lose, and they keep Joe Harris now at that $75 million deal. And, you're starting to see that Nets team. They brought in Bruce Brown from Detroit, and you're seeing their backcourt, adding some backcourt depth and then solidifying it with Joe Harris.
Meanwhile, Sacramento is convinced that it has found the centerpiece of its franchise moving forward. De'Aaron Fox, he signs a max deal, $163 million, maybe up to $200 million. So what's the thinking there in terms of building around him?
Yeah, he has been for them a high draft pick with the Kings who has developed, blossomed, and, they're going to, continue to build around him. Tyrese Halliburton came in the draft from Iowa State. They love the idea of playing him there. Buddy Hield in that backcourt. And now you're going to see a couple of the other rookie extensions. Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell. Those are two other players who are eligible for similar deals to De'Aaron Fox. And those teams now will start talking at midnight about extensions in Boston.